faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books worldwide. Hello, this is Sally's Book Club. Today we're discussing Is Paris Romantic? Subtitled Myths and Truths About France. Do you think Paris is romantic? Feel free to show your thoughts in the comments. Elegant French women, sumptuous French cuisine, the chic Champs-Élysées. In popular culture, France is often idealized as exceptionally romantic and sophisticated. But is that really true? Are the French truly that elegant? Is Parisian life genuinely as romantic as imagined? Author Pugh Marie Eatwell has reservations. Eatwell is a British writer. She graduated in English from Oxford, worked as a BBC producer, documentary director, and lawyer. Now residing in France, she focuses on writing. She's married to a Frenchman with 3 Anglo-French sons. Initially enchanted by everything French. Fresh croissants, Parisian beauties, lunchtime wine. Even rude waiters seemed charming. But over time, cracks appeared. Stale croissants, canned supermarket food, ordinary-looking women. So Eatwell began questioning her mystified admiration for France. As a Brit, she'd grown up with French stereotypes, many originating in Britain. Given their historic rivalry, rumors include French loving horsemeat and frogs, Paris being Europe's dog poop capital. Eatwell examines 45 such rumors about the French. True or false? How did these rumors emerge? The book won the 2014 Independent Publisher Book Award. Time magazine praised. Eatwell's uniquely witty, lucid prose delivers a comprehensive delight. Whether you're a student about to study in France or a traveler wanting to deeply experience French charm, this book will show you a different yet vibrant France. Next, we'll break down the main content of the book through 3 parts. First, French cuisine. Second, French manners and elegance. Third, awkward moments for tourists. All right, in part 1, let's talk about what the French love to eat. French cuisine isn't just one of the world's most famous culinary traditions. It's had a huge impact on global food culture and the restaurant industry. For instance, the word restaurant comes from French, originally meaning a restorative beef broth. In 1765, a guy named Boulanger opened the world's first restaurant in Paris, serving that very soup. Before that, guests had to squeeze together at one table with the owner to eat. But at Boulanger's place, guests got their own little marble tables. Soon, this setup caught on in Paris and beyond. The modern kitchen brigade system also started in France. In the late 19th century, French chef Georges-Auguste Escoffier created it, with sous chefs handling tasks under the chef's direction. Escoffier's motto was "Keep it simple." He streamlined French haute cuisine to fit modern life, and the a la carte menu was also Escoffier's invention. Rumor has it Escoffier once cooked an amazing salmon dish for Kaiser Wilhelm II. Wilhelm II asked the French chef, "How should I repay you?" Escoffier answered, "Return Alsace and Lorraine to France." Oh, the French have made countless contributions to food, but they've got another rep when it comes to eating. They'll chow down on anything alive. In fact, this book's English title is They Eat Horse Meat, right? This really bugs the author's British pals. Brits see horses as man's second best friend, but the French cold-heartedly serve them up. So in this section on eating, we'll first tackle whether the French actually like eating horse meat. Actually, till the mid-19th century, the French didn't dig horse meat any more than other Europeans. Only when desperate, like during the French Revolution, when peasants had no grub, would they use it to fill their bellies. The French horse meat is However, the Franco-Prussian War from 1870 to 1871 changed how the French viewed horse meat. During the war, Paris was besieged by Prussian forces for over 4 months, cutting off regular food supplies. Starving Parisians began tossing animals they'd never eaten before into pots, starting with the ordinary horse. Next came dog meat, cat meat, and rat meat. Finally, camels, kangaroos, elephants, and other exotic beasts from the Paris Zoo. In January 1871, British diplomat Henry Blasher, then in Paris, wrote in his diary, "Yesterday I ate a piece of elephant Pollock's meat for dinner. Coarse, tough, and greasy. As long as British families can get beef or lamb, I wouldn't recommend eating elephant meat. One Paris restaurant's Christmas menu included clear stewed elephant soup, English-style roast camel, kangaroo meat, and cat and rat stew. After the Siege of Paris ended, French fondness for horse meat began to rise. From 1895 to 1904, horse meat consumption in France surged by 77%. Horse meat is low in fat but high in iron and nitrates, so doctors often prescribed it to treat anemia, tuberculosis, and other illnesses. Plus, compared to beef and lamb, horse meat was cheaper, becoming a key protein source for the poor. By 1913, domestic horse meat in France couldn't meet demand, forcing imports from abroad. From the 1950s, horses' status in France shifted. They were no longer just farm or war animals, but pets. The French middle class adored ponies, yet this didn't make them feel guilty about eating their so-called friends.
The real jolt to France's horse meat trade came from sex symbol Brigitte Bardot, who is also an animal rights activist.
In the 1980s, she publicly condemned her compatriots for eating horse meat and the abuse horses endured during slaughterhouse transport. Perhaps Bardot's outcry worked. French horse meat consumption plummeted in the 90s. So, do the French still eat it today? Yes, but way less. From 1980 to 2001, consumption dropped by 60%. The French now eat less than half the horse meat Italians consume annually. So regarding horse meat, the British do have some misunderstandings about the French. Actually, it's not just horse meat. The British also hold deep prejudices about the French and their relationship with frogs and toads. Just look at the nicknames the British have for the French, and you'll see what I mean. 10,010. These include frog eaters. French writer Alexandre Dumas mentioned in his classic Grand Dictionnaire de Cuisine that for about 60 years, the British had been drawing cartoons of French people eating frog legs. But in reality, the Europeans who love frog legs the most aren't the French at all, it's the Belgians. Between 1999 and 2009, Belgians imported nearly 25,000 tons of frog legs, while France, the supposed frog leg country, imported less than half that amount. Even Americans consumed more than the French. They imported about 21,500 tons over 10 years, double what the French consumed. In southern England, descendants of early French immigrants enjoy frog legs, breaded and fried, or grilled on skewers. In Texas, grilled frog legs with cornbread and purple hull peas is a classic summer dish. Other common misconceptions about French eating habits include that they're the world's top garlic lovers. In traditional French recipes, garlic does play an important role. Bouillabaisse is served with garlic aioli, and escargots are bathed in garlic butter sauce. The French love for garlic is so notorious that in 1945, the U.S. military stationed in France published a pamphlet called 112 Annoying Things About the French to help soldiers cope. One entry stated, "If you ride the subway, the stench will knock you dead. There's garlic, sweat, and perfume." The pamphlet's author defended the French. You smell garlic because they're expert cooks using more than we do. But actually, garlic consumption in France has plummeted recently. Today, the world's top garlic consumer isn't France, it's South Korea, with 10 kilos eaten per person annually.
Now, the main garlic eaters in France are the elderly and middle-aged. The younger generation prefers burgers and sushi.
Since we've mentioned burgers, let's address another myth, that the French dislike fast food. This rumor might stem from the 1990s anti-McDonald's protests in France, which included dumping rotten apples at restaurants and stealing Ronald McDonald statues. But entering the 21st century, France's fast food consumption skyrocketed. Today, France is McDonald's second largest market, only behind the US. French hamburger consumption ranks second in Europe, far surpassing Germany, Spain, and Italy, with Britain in first place. This is partly thanks to McDonald's localization efforts. The company introduced comfy velvet sofas and armchairs in its French outlets, added local French cheese to burgers, and sourced ingredients from French farmers. McDonald's is one of France's biggest beef buyers, purchasing thousands of tons of potatoes and meat from French farmers annually who'd throw rotten apples at their best customer. But, but on the other hand, the French pace of life has sped up, with average meal times dropping from 1 hour and 38 minutes in 1975 to just 31 minutes in 2010, a decrease of over an hour. As of 2010, 7 out of 10 meals eaten outside the home by the French were fast food. Of course, defenders of traditional French cuisine believe the French will always return to proper dining, dismissing fast food as a passing fad. But any cooking green? Are today's young French folks just sampling something new? Or have they truly betrayed French cuisine for fast food? The author thinks it's still too early to say for sure. But one thing's certain, life in France will only get faster paced in the future. That wraps up part 1, where we covered some rumors about French eating habits.
The French don't eat as much horse meat or garlic as before. Their love for amphibians is way less than Belgians and Americans. And they've embraced fast food.
But when it comes to eating, the French are still the top snail lovers, the world's biggest consumers of gastropods, gobbling up nearly 1 billion snails yearly. However, genuine French snails are rare now. Their famous Burgundy snail is extinct. The snails you eat in France most likely come from Turkey, Hungary, Poland, or Ukraine. Having covered diet, now in part 2, let's discuss French manners and elegance. Coco Chanel once said, "Fashion fades, only elegance remains." Women like her have cemented the global image that French women are naturally graceful and fashion savvy. And it's widely believed that even average-looking French women always manage to exude an indescribable charm. There's a French term, jolie lad, specifically for them. There are even books on the market specifically guiding British and American women on how to discover their inner French woman.
So at the start of part 2, we'll focus on French women's elegance.
The author believes that French women's elegance, or more precisely, that of the petite bourgeoisie, comes from well-bred rules of conduct. According to post-French Revolution etiquette, self-presentation is crucial. Personal appearance shows politeness and respect for others. Thus, a woman must pay meticulous attention to every detail of personal grooming and attire. Nails must be manicured, hair must be styled, and going shopping in pajamas is absolutely forbidden. She must understand harmonious, understated dressing, avoiding flashy designer labels or anything suggesting nouveau riche. Although over 200 years have passed since the French Revolution, these rules still bind upper middle class and older French women. In the author's town, you often see petite 40-something women elegantly walking in Chanel, alongside their 18-year-old daughters with punk hairstyles, piercings, tattoos, and much larger, stronger builds. Another enduring myth about French women is that they can indulge freely in red wine, cheese, and croissants while maintaining a slim figure. The author points out that historically, the French did have low obesity rates, but this is changing.
A 2012 survey found that 47% of French adults were overweight or obese.
Over the 15 years from 1997 to 2012, obesity rates in France surged by 76%, with the steepest increase among young women aged 18 to 25. Another 2007 survey found that 16% of young French people were overweight. Part of the reason is linked to young French people's love for fast food, as mentioned earlier. Regionally, the highest female obesity rates are in economically depressed Pas-de-Calais in northern France, while the lowest are in Provence-Alpes et Côte d'Azur in the south and around Paris. Women without high school diplomas weigh 3 kilograms more on average than their graduated counterparts. Among all women, Parisian petite bourgeoisie have the lowest overweight rates, thanks to those well-bred rules. But historically, the demand for elegant manners wasn't just imposed on women. According to 19th century bourgeois etiquette, a respectable woman must wear a hat when going out. Never drink more than one aperitif before dinner, or you'd be seen as a drunkard or, heaven forbid, an Englishwoman.
Men absolutely couldn't leave home without a tie, and they had to wear yellow gloves.
Even today, the French are more socially reserved than Brits or Americans, with stricter rules. In France, whether in shops, restaurants, or buses, you must say bonjour or bonsoir before speaking to anyone. The awkward time is around 5 p.m. If you greet someone with bonjour and get a frosty bonsoir in reply, understand they're probably in a bad mood. There's also etiquette around la bis, whether to air kiss and how many times. Customs vary by region, but the safest bet is 2 kisses, starting with the right cheek. Crucially, you're not actually kissing, just lightly brushing cheeks while making a soft moi sound with your lips. If someone mistakes this and plants a real kiss, the French person will consider them extremely rude. Ironically, though, the French themselves are world famous for rudeness. A U.S. survey of 4,000 hoteliers found French tourists the least welcome. They're most reluctant to speak English, tip the least, and love to complain. A 2012 Expedia survey showed France as the world's rudest country to tourists. Russia came second. French service workers are notoriously brusque. Taxi drivers grumble, waiters rarely smile, shop assistants act arrogant. These are often tourists' main contacts who believe being polite to foreigners equals servility. This mindset traces back to Jacobins during the French Revolution, who declared rudeness a form of anti-oppression resistance. After World War II, with the U.S. pushing the Marshall Plan to aid Europe, the French started viewing their former ally as a symbol of cultural oppression, and their hostility grew stronger. And when I saw that 10, read 18, numerous conflicts broke out in Paris between French people and American tourists. Now, that's how the French reputation for rudeness was born. American writer Steinbeck described the psychological gap for U.S. tourists in France this way. Facing the raised eyebrows of restaurant maitre d's and arrogant smiles from tour guides, they got scared and huddled together, while locals who'd never left their village looked down on tourists, which was infuriating. Among all French people, the rudest are undoubtedly Parisians, and even the French themselves think so. In 2010, a domestic French survey interviewed 1,000 people, and over 70% believed Parisians are more snobbish than folks elsewhere in France. 62% thought Parisians are more xenophobic. All right. In part 2, we covered French manners and elegance. French women are hailed as models worldwide, but actually, they can gain weight too. On one hand, the French are reserved and rule-bound socially. On the other, their rude attitude is notorious, especially when dealing with foreigners. The book mentions Parisians' rudeness even caused some tourists to develop Paris syndrome. The main symptoms of this mental illness include intense delusions, persecution complexes, and panic attacks. Among tourists from their home countries, Japanese visitors are especially prone to Paris syndrome, with dozens hospitalized yearly for various reasons.
A common view is that Japanese media might have portrayed Paris too idealistically.
So when Japanese tourists arrive in their dream city, they find service workers super rude, women heavier than themselves, and fewer Louis Vuitton items on them.
This harsh reality shatters their illusions and throws them into a mental crisis.
The Japanese embassy in Paris set up a 24-hour hotline specifically to help affected compatriots. The St. Anne Psychiatric Hospital in Paris also established specialized treatment units for Japanese victims. Actually, it's pretty simple. Have the victims return to Japan immediately and never come back. But to be fair, what disillusioned the Japanese wasn't just the poor attitudes of service workers, but also France's embarrassing public hygiene situation. Now, in part 3, let's discuss those little embarrassments tourists face in France. Oh, well, first up, the notorious scarcity of public toilets.
When starry-eyed tourists arrive in France, they often have meltdowns over the public restroom situation.
Lonely Planet's guides for the Côte d'Azur and Provence had authors lamenting. In France, public toilets are scarce and far apart, meaning when nature calls, you might go from frantic to full-on despair.
If you desperately need a toilet in France, your only choice is often, well, some open space.
Historically, until the 1980s, public toilets were super rare. Even Versailles Palace had none. Courtiers just used whatever container was handy, like vases in palace corridors or stairwells. Up until the 19th century, French folks straight up dumped chamber pots out windows. Legend says one studious early riser accidentally dumped his on King Louis XIV's head and got rewarded for his diligence. In the 1980s, Paris finally installed self-cleaning public toilets on streets, slightly easing the crisis. Each toilet is a compact pod. Solve your business within 20 minutes, or the door won't unlock and the cleaning cycle won't start. But French public toilets rank among the world's filthiest in major tourist destinations. Per a global traveler survey, France has the world's third worst toilets, only behind China and India. Besides infamous toilets, Paris is also notorious as Europe's dog poop capital. Rumor has it this cost Paris the 2012 Olympics bid. With 300,000 dogs dumping 20 tons annually, enough to fill 3 Olympic pools, a kilo hits Paris sidewalks every 5 seconds, hospitalizing 650 people yearly from slip and falls. Of course, it's not just Paris. Most French cities share this charm. Even Brussels' French-speaking areas in Belgium. French people tend to leave most things for the government to handle. Dog owners are particularly stubborn about this. To tackle Paris's street hygiene issues, the city government did make efforts. For example, when Jacques Chirac was mayor, he created a motorcycle poop scooping squad. Riders used weird green trikes with vacuums to collect dog waste from streets. This squad was expensive but ineffective and got scrapped in 2002. Paris then focused on educating dog owners, deploying dog advisors in yellow vests who handed out free poop bags and lectured on civic duty, with limited success.
But for tourists, besides watching your step, you also need to watch the skies.
When dreaming of spontaneous trips to Europe to feed pigeons, people overlook how pigeons mess with public health in European cities.
Whether London's Trafalgar Square or Venice's St. Mark's Square, pigeons, they're seen as pests globally. In Paris, they're called flying rats. Central Paris has approximately 80,000 pigeons, 1 per 25 residents. The most common breed is Ramier, brown with pinkish feathers. They migrate each winter, return in spring to devour green shoots, then coat streets and monuments in foul-smelling acidic droppings. So spring really isn't the best time to visit Paris. But while Paris struggles with dogs, they're surprisingly good at pigeon control. They've set up contraceptive pigeon lofts in popular bird spots. These provide food, but resident pigeons get just 1 brood yearly. Extra eggs get gently shaken to prevent hatching. Paris also installed electromagnetic devices on monuments emitting pulses to scare pigeons away. All right, we've covered tourist awkwardness from Paris's hygiene issues. Next up, another awkwardness tied to the French famous long vacations. There's a saying, in August, all of France shuts down. If you visit then, you'll likely feel abandoned on French streets. Finding a baguette or open restaurant is nearly impossible. But the author clarifies, France doesn't shut down in August. People just migrate en masse from cities to coasts. And this phenomenon is relatively recent. According to the book, tourism was invented by the author's fellow Brits. In the 18th century, British gentlemen loved grabbing fancy travel guides to tour Europe's cultural landmarks. And until the early 19th century, tourism was a privilege for the wealthy leisure class in both Britain and France. But in the 1930s, France's ruling Popular Front Party gave workers 15 days paid leave, launching France's golden age of mass tourism. Yes.
People flocked to mountains and beaches, spawning resorts and vacation clubs.
Summer 1936, paid leave's first year, saw 600,000 discounted train tickets sold just through the Tourism Ministry's worker program. Philosopher Simone Weil captured in her diary the excitement of packed trains heading to vacation. They felt like country weddings, wiping tears, singing, saying heartfelt things like, "Now this is living." Today, the French get about 5 weeks of paid vacation yearly. Their 1980s rules, this leave aligns with school holidays, then mid-July to early October. Now 2/3 vacation yearly or feel ashamed. Every August, they swarm to overcrowded beaches, enduring traffic jams, and prefer domestic spots. 75% vacation domestically. Since France was agrarian until the 20th century, many have countryside relatives or homes hosting whole families for months. Traditional French folks reject cheap weekend flights abroad. Plus, they dislike speaking English. That's why each August, Paris hibernates until late August when it gradually revives. However, with rising individualism among the French, the whole family August vacation tradition is changing. Young French people are starting to take shorter, more frequent vacations like other Europeans. But wherever they vacation, August remains their most anticipated time of year. So, whenever it was, if you visit France in August craving daily baguettes, your only option is turning off your phone, hopping in a car with traffic jam CDs, and following locals to the nearest beach. All right, that covers the book's main content. After hearing this, are you more enchanted by France or slightly disappointed? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. The author believes all these rumors about France, true or false, idealized or demonized, reveal how little people understand this country. While admiring French women's elegance, we shouldn't forget this nation often views women primarily as decorators and beautifiers of space. Another example, Brits often call France an independent bookstore paradise, 3,000 nationwide, 400 in Paris, versus UK's mere 1,000. This stems from France's fixed book pricing law, meaning books cost the same online or in store, ensuring small shops survive.
But would Brits sacrifice flexible pricing to protect indie bookstores?
Perhaps wherever we are, mutual understanding and respecting differences is key to coexistence. So, is Paris romantic? That concludes our interpretation. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.